So, I just got to see the brand new movie called Twisters. Of course, this is a sequel slash more of a remake to the original 1996 film Twister. And I say remake because this film really doesn't have that many connections to that film, other than the fact that, believe it or not, there are twisters in this movie. This film was directed by Lee Isaac Chung, who most recently directed Minari, a very, very big, Oscar film. So yeah, interesting choice to pivot to Twisters. And this film stars Daisy Edgar Jones and, of course, Glen Powell, who is slowly but surely taking over Hollywood. He's showing up in everything, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. So what do I think of Twisters? Overall, I think this is a really good movie, a really good disaster movie, something we don't really get a lot of anymore. I am a big fan of disaster movies. I grew up on them, and I watched a ton of them as a kid, and a lot of them have really stuck with me. Movies like Independence Day, which is like an alien invasion movie, but very much a disaster film. I've always remembered films like 2012, films like that have really just stuck out to me, of people trying to survive the insurmountable, these natural events that are terrifying because they are nature in a way. You can't stop them. You can't fight them with a gun. They're not good or evil. They're just this destructive force. And any movie that can surround themselves with an idea like that, I feel like has a more real, gritty, grounded feel to it than some generic horror films. Granted, this is not a horror film. It is an action thriller sort of destruction movie. And this film does a lot right. I am a big fan of the original film starring Bill Paxton. I think it is one of the better disaster films we got in the 90s. It's got that weird, Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park vibe to it that you get with a lot of those 90 films, and I think it's awesome. I think this film captures a lot of what made that film works. There are some things about this film that don't really work as well, but let me go through it. First things first, Daisy Edgar Jones is a star. I mean, have you watched Normal People? Normal People is one of, the best shows in recent memory. It's a show that kind of launched Paul Mescal's career, and Daisy Edgar Jones is right behind him. She's coming too. She's incredible in this film. She is the lead here, and she carries this film as its emotional beat. Her character has gone through a lot, especially related to, guess what? Twisters, tornadoes, who would have thought? And because of that, there's a very relatable vibe to her and this grief and this regret that she feels over certain events in her past. This movie has a fantastic opening that immediately gets you directly engaged with the main character of this film. And Daisy Edgar Jones is able to pull off all the different vibes of this character, this kind of gleefulness over what she loves, which is tornadoes, and studying this and trying to find a way to stop them, right? To find a scientific way to save these towns that get destroyed by tornadoes. But also kind of this fearful side of her that is just kind of stunned and suffering from a sense of PTSD over events. She sells all of it. And then when you bring in Glen Powell, who is just, he's a charismatic mastermind. Glen Powell is the type of guy that every straight man in America, every single straight man in this country, when they see Glen Powell in a movie, they say, I'm not gay, but yeah, he's incredible. He is just oozing with charisma. Oozing. He is just a charisma bomb. He is incredible in this film, playing this tornado wrangler, this guy that just sees tornadoes and he loves them. They're fun, and the creative ways that this man goes to experience tornadoes are just hilarious to watch on screen. His character's funny, he's fun, I love his crew. Katie O'Brien's in his crew. Interesting. Saw her in Love Lies Bleeding, and now she's playing background character number 4 in this. That sucks. I just really enjoyed everything about Glen Powell's character, and his chemistry with Daisy Edgar Jones is right up there with her chemistry with Paul Mescal. Is it as good? No. Maybe. I don't know. Glen Powell's just so amazing. Come on. But they have great chemistry, and it really hooks, it hooks you into this sort of romance love story that you would expect going into this film. Anthony Ramos is also here. I don't have much to say, just poor Javi. Right? Poor Javi. Probably the most relatable character in this movie, and if you know, you know. David Corenswet's in here. I'm gonna be honest, this is the first time I've seen David Corenswet. If you didn't know, he's playing Superman, so of course I'm taking a sharper look at him, and you look at him in this film and you go, yeah, that's Superman. That's Clark Kent. He's playing kind of a dick in this movie, but there's just some actors that I feel like are born to look like Superman, and he's one of them. He looks and sounds like Superman. So when I'm watching in this movie be a dick, I'm like, he's acting, because Superman would never be a dick. Yeah, I'm excited to see him in that character role. It's gonna be great. But overall here, the characters are really what carries this film. They're all fun, they're all gleeful. This movie's funny at times, it's really emotional at times, and they sell this destruction of something I haven't talked about yet, the Twisters! You have to make, in a movie about Twisters, you have to make the Twisters, the tornadoes, feel like a threat. And the way they do that is kind of attach this emotion to it of, we want to stop these tornadoes from destroying these towns that have a bunch of people that are not main characters in this movie. We want to save the small folk, okay? Imagine this whole movie is Varys from Game of Thrones trying to save the regular people of Westeros. We don't see those regular people, but we see Varys. And that's kind of how you emotionally attach yourself to the plot of what's going on with the tornadoes. They're these destructive things that don't just kill people, but even the people that survive when these things hit a town, suffer. Their houses are destroyed, their businesses are destroyed, and then you see kind of like the corruption part of this and how corporations kind of step in and take advantage of these people. There's a lot here that is trying to say something a lot more vivid than maybe the film completely gets across, but it is still felt. And the actual effects of the tornado are beautiful. The tornadoes and the CGI that went into them look incredible. Do they look as impressive as some of the practical stuff I've seen in other films? Is it as impressive as the original Twister film? Is it as impressive as the Twister ride at Universal Orlando that they closed? How dare you? No, it's not, but it still looks good, and it's convincing, and when you have some of the tornadoes that are like the big boy tornadoes, the real big boy ones, they are absolutely terrifying and frightening, and you understand the threat of them. You understand you do not want to be anywhere near that thing. So although there is a playfulness with some of the tornadoes in this film, there is a gleefulness with how the characters react to them, there is that kind of balance of, oh shit, we don't want to mess with that one. That one is a big boy tornado, and it is terrifying. And it's done really, really well. There are some aspects of this film that I don't exactly love. Like, at the end of the day, it's a movie about tornadoes. There's only so far you can go, and if you do go really far and cross that line, it would become overly ridiculous and the film would no longer work. So it has to keep a practicality to it, to keep it grounded and make it feel real so it can connect and engage with the audience. But there is a line that it stays under, and because it has to stay under that line, this film can't really do that much. It's a problem the original film kind of ran into, where it's almost like the film is made to be this practical experience, to be filmed very practically and be creative with its filmmaking, but in modern filmmaking, films like this just don't mean as much as they did in the 90s because of how far we've come with CGI and computer technology, so it doesn't feel as important to cinema as maybe the older destruction films, disaster films like Twister may have felt. But, in saying that, it's still good, it's entertaining, but it's just this film never becomes something great, and it's not because it is bad in any way, it's just because a film like this, I don't know if this kind of concept could be great, you know what I mean? Could be a great 5 out of 5 film. There are times that I felt like this movie was a little too long. It could have been brought down in the runtime a little bit. There's times that I think it's maybe a little too cheesy, a little too comic-y, right? Some of the characters feel just way out there at some times, you know, at some points in the film, and maybe I would tone that down a bit more. But overall, this is a film that was clearly made by people that knew what they were doing, that people that cared about this film and the original one and this kind of genre that has kind of gone dormant. I think the only disaster film I've seen in recent years was Moonfall. I love Moonfall. Everybody else hated it, but come on, a movie about the moon crashing into the earth? How do people hate that? It was so much fun. But I enjoyed Twisters. I had a really good time with this movie. I will give Twisters a 3.5 out of 5. It is a solid disaster movie that all of you should go see. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of Twisters down below. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I post every single day. I will see you guys in the next video.